While the mainstream media was busy attacking Trump's every move, he was quietly orchestrating the most successful hostage rescue operation in modern history. 168 hostages were brought home alive, 83 families finally able to bury their loved ones with dignity, and now dozens of countries are lining up to join Trump's Revolutionary Board of Peace initiative that's making the corrupt United Nations look like an amateur hour. But what you're about to discover with this $7 billion commitment will blow your mind. So this is just about Gaza, guys. This is about America leading the world again. Instead of bowing to globalist institutions, while Biden would have formed, another useless committee to send, probably they would have sent like a strongly worded letter, I'm guessing. But Trump, he's getting results. Real families are being reunited with their loved ones and real bodies returned for proper burial. And now Secretary of Rubio, the best Secretary of State in United States history, is saying this Board of Peace model could solve conflicts worldwide. And think about what this means for us, for you. No more endless wars draining your tax dollars. No more American soldiers dying in foreign conflicts that drag on for decades. And no more watching helplessly as global bureaucrats fail repeatedly while real people suffer. This is Trump thinking outside of the box, circumventing the United Nations swamp, and showing the world what actual leadership looks like. They could all use a lesson at it. But speaking of strategic thinking, there's something urgent happening right now that demands your attention. So breaking tonight, while Wall Street fixates on gold, silver, and headline commodities, there's a strategic metal quietly driving defense policy, military procurement, and geopolitical planning behind the scenes. It's not flashy. Most investors never talk about it, but governments and defense contractors are stockpiling it like it's their national security depends on it. Guess what? Because it does. This metal is essential for advancing radar systems, satellite technology, and next-generation military hardware. Yet most Americans have never heard of it. SAGA Metals has identified the only pure play investment opportunity in this space, and they're briefing serious investors on why this could be the most important strategic move of the decade. While everybody else chases yesterday's trends, smart money is positioning for tomorrow's reality. It's not speculation, it's preparation for America's technological dominance. Get the full briefing at sagametals.com before this opportunity disappears. Now back to Trump's peace revolution. So here's what the establishment does not want you to know. Every single time a hostage family showed up at the White House, Trump dropped everything to meet with them. Not on his official schedule, just pure human decency and presidential leadership. And when the last 20 hostages came home, witnesses say Trump had tears in his eyes during the White House celebration. I know I did too. And this is the man the media calls heartless, guys. This is it. They say he's heartless. Meanwhile, dozens of countries are now scrambling to join the Board of Peace because they know Trump gets results. Let's get to the receipts. We've got Rapid Response 47. At POTUS is addressing the Board of Peace. This meeting today is proof with determined leadership. Nothing is impossible. When I took office, the war in Gaza was raging and thousands of people were being killed with no end in sight. Today, thanks to unrelenting diplomacy, this is going to be ended. Let's see.
But this meeting today is proof with determined leadership. Nothing is impossible. When I took office, the war in Gaza was raging with thousands of people being killed and no end in sight. Today, thanks to unrelenting diplomacy and the commitment of many of the great people in this room, we have 59 countries signed up on Gaza. Think of that. We have, it's amazing. But all the people, many, really so many in this room, the war in Gaza is over. It's over. There are little flames. Hamas has been, I think they're going to give up their weapons, which is what they promised. If they don't, it'll be, they'll be harshly met, very harshly met. They don't want that. All this stuff like they don't mind dying. They told me that's not true. Everyone said, oh, they don't mind dying. No, they don't want to die. They said, we don't want to die. People don't want to die. The ceasefire was held, and every last remaining hostage, both living and dead, has been returned back home. Think of that. That was an impossibility.
Of course it was an impossibility. Of course. Trump is doing things that the global order wish they could have done forever. But he's doing it. He's getting it done. That he is a man of action. The board is all about action. That's why he makes them pay to be a part of it. So Trump's opening statement sets up his diplomatic victory narrative. But notice he's building to something bigger, the actual dollar commitment that makes this real. And it ain't real unless you got money in it, right? So at POTUS, he says, since a hard-won ceasefire of last October, the United States and our partners have facilitated the delivery of vast amounts of humanitarian aid. And right after Venezuela, we had C-17s flying in and dropping aid the next day. We were taking care of the people right away. And that's what they're talking about. They're doing these things. Let's see.
Since the hard-won ceasefire of last October, the United States and our partners have facilitated the delivery of vast amounts of humanitarian aid, numbers that nobody's ever seen before. In November, the United Nations Security Council unanimously approved the Board of Peace. And last month in Davos, we welcomed over 24 members to this very important new organization. And we are very closely working with the United Nations. In fact, I'm going to speak to the Secretary General in a little while. He's a good man. And I've had a good relationship. Other than in my last speech, they did turn off my teleprompter.
Yeah, they did. They sabotaged him because they knew he was going to go out there and spit truth. And remember Biden did the whole flotilla thing for Palestine or Gaza or whatever, where they put out like the floating piers we spent like $50 million on, and it fell apart after 2 days. Instead, Trump went out there, strong-armed both sides. We did a couple strikes, used some military because it's peace through strength. And now we're going to have international peacekeepers coming in. They're not UN backed. They're just troops from other countries to make sure people can go and worship inside of that center. So it says the president established a United States backing international legitimacy. Now watch him pivot to the money shot, the massive financial commitment that proves that it isn't just talk. And that POTUS announces commitments of more than $7 billion towards the Gaza relief alone. Just towards the relief, $7 billion from donors. It's not even coming from taxpayers. It's coming from donors to make sure people are good.
Today, and I'm pleased to announce that Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, UAE, Morocco, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Uzbekistan, and Kuwait have all contributed more than $7 billion toward the relief package. That's great. Thank you, fellas. Thank you. And many more are contributing too. So the numbers are, this just started. This is our first meeting. But every dollar spent is an investment in stability and the hope of new and harmonious. It's a region that's so important. It's so vibrant. It's so incredible. The people are so incredible, but we want to have a harmonious Middle East. The Middle East is amazing.
And he's putting people, he's making them shut up and put up, right? So he's got to put out cash and shut up unless you're not on it. And the United Nations would form committees and they'd have hearings about it, let people debate for 14 hours or whatever, 4 years, or in some cases, look what was happening in South Africa with the genocide that was occurring there. We didn't play games. We didn't mess around. We just got it done. And that's what this is about. It's taking the bureaucratic nonsense out of it and just doing the right thing. Getting food to the people in Venezuela, making sure that the airlift and the whole flotilla craziness that Biden had, then they started dropping aid on people. It was the most insane thing ever. They're doing things because it's good for the people of the world. And what's good for people of the world, it's also good for the United States. We like our allies happy. And even if they're not an ally, we don't want their people getting hurt. So this is about global and world peace. He is the peace president. So $7 billion on the table, and that's the headline. But Trump is not done yet. He's about to issue direct challenge to Iran that could reshape the entire region. And Iran is in the FO portion of the FA. So let's see. So according to POTUS in rapid response, now is the time for Iran to join us on a path that will complete what we're doing. If they join us, that'll be great. If they don't join us, that'll be great too. But it's going to be a very different path. Peace through strength. Let's see.
Now is the time for Iran to join us on a path that will complete what we're doing. And if they join us, that'll be great. If they don't join us, that'll be great too. But it'll be a very different path. They cannot continue to threaten the stability of the entire region, and they must make a deal. Or if that doesn't happen, I maybe can understand. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But bad things will happen if it doesn't.
You know, a lot of bad things are coming Iran's way. And the last time we had to talk to them, using our B-2s as the interpreter, they didn't even know the B-2s were in the air. Nobody had a clue. Not even China and Russia, who had their best air defense systems ever. They put them in Iran. They gave them good fighter jets, all these things. They had no idea what was happening until it already happened. And if that was a B-2, that's 30, 40-year-old technology. They have no idea what the United States has or what we're capable of. They should come to the table. Nobody wants war. I don't want war. I watch too many of my friends die in Iraq and Afghanistan. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do. This is classic Trump diplomacy, the carrot and the stick approach to Iran. Now the vice president steps up to sell the economic benefits to America. Rapid Response 47 again. VP delivers remarks at the inaugural Board of Peace meeting. The countries represented here represent trillions of dollars investment in the United States of America that would not have been possible without POTUS. Let's see.
I have three very brief messages. First of all, to the President of the United States, but to the entire team, to Marco, to Steve, to Jared in particular, who've done such an incredible job. I think what this Board of Peace represents is a recognition that if you actually have a President of the United States and a team that's committed to diplomacy, it can actually work. When I look at what happened to Israel on October the 7th, all those innocent people who were murdered, the fact that you had all of these hostages, and of course, a terrible war that came from it, I remember thinking to myself, how is it ever going to be possible to get these hostages home safely, to make it possible for the people of Gaza to actually have a reasonable future, but also to ensure that Israel is never attacked again? It turns out the answer was you just needed a president who was committed to the effort and committed to the work, and that's what we had, thankfully, under the leadership of this president. And you got to make peace, but then you have to make the peace stick. And that brings me to my second point. That's what the Board of Peace, I think, is fundamentally about, is making the peace stick. And it's an incredible thing that you guys have all done. So to all of the leaders gathered here today who are investing in the future, who are investing in peace, we're grateful to you. We're grateful for your partnership. And in particular, I think to the President of Azerbaijan and the Prime Minister of Armenia, who I just saw last week, thank you all for making it possible and for showing what real leadership can accomplish. When you set aside weapons and killing and destruction and invest in your people and invest in prosperity, it can create great things. So thank you both for what you did. I think it showed great leadership. And finally, to the American people, I think it's important that the American people recognize why we're here today. And the reason that we're here today is, yes, to save lives and yes, to promote peace, but this creates incredible prosperity for the American people. The countries represented here represent trillions of dollars of investment in the United States of America that would not have been possible without this president's leadership and advocacy for peace. The economies here represent millions of American jobs of people who are receiving products built in American factories and made by American workers would not be possible without a focus on peace. So, Mr. President, while I think this is great for the world, I also think it's really, really great for the United States of America. So we're looking forward to the partnership.
You know, we need to learn the phrase, a hand up, not a hand out. A lot of times these people, these NGOs, and it comes down to non-governmental organizations that are controlling a lot of these thought processes. You give unlimited funds, like, so we say we want to send money to Ethiopia, for an example, right? So we want to help Ethiopia. What do? Oh, let's give them $30 billion. So we take that $30 billion and we shove it towards these NGOs, which is all through the USAID thing. And that's where that whole scam was shut down, which is why we have the Board of Peace right now, because we thought we had the mechanism to enforce peace through USAID, which we thought we were helping these guys. Now, it turns out they were taking all the money, paying their people, and only like 1 penny out of every dollar would go out there. But again, that was a hand out. What the Trump administration is doing is working on giving hands up, meaning raising those communities out, getting better education systems and clean water infrastructure, things that could develop those nations is their primary focus of this board. And that's what it should have been forever. And it's crazy that it took a business guy and a vice president, Marco Rubio, to figure this out. But the vice president frames this as an investment opportunity for America. But watch Trump shift back to personal praise. He's about to give Rubio a very Trump-style compliment. It was pretty funny. You guys will like this. I'm not even going to preface it. We're just going to have fun with it.
Marco, you really did yourself proud 2 days ago in Munich. In fact, so proud that I almost terminated his employ because they were saying, why can't Trump do this? I do. But I say it differently. But Marco, don't do any better than you did, please. Because if you do, you're out of here. But no, I want my guys to do great. And the acclaim he's gotten and the acclaim JD gets is great. We have smart people.
We have very, very, very smart people over this whole thing. And I love the memes of Marco Rubio where he's got like, it was the Super Bowl halftime show. Like, oh, well, if Bad Bunny doesn't show up, he's going to have the drums on. He's going to go out there and have fun. You know, the memes are hilarious. So in case you missed it, so Trump praising Rubio with that classic backhanded compliment style. This shows the personal relationship driving the diplomacy. Let's get into it. Another one from Rapid Response 47. It says, POTUS convenes the inaugural Board of Peace meeting at the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace in Washington, D.C. He's naming a lot of buildings after himself. But you know what? If the shoe fits, let's see.
What we're doing is very simple: peace. It's called the Board of Peace, and it's all about an easy word to say, but a hard word to produce: peace. But we're going to produce, and we've been doing a really good job, and some of these leaders that are with us have helped me very much during just this first year. We have a first year like probably no other ever in our country, because we settled 8 wars.
We've got 3 years left.
I think a 9th to come. It's turned out to be a tougher one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But with war, you never know what's easy and what's not so easy. But we've had a great relationship, and I've become friendly with so many of the people. And I appreciate you being here. These are great people. These are great leaders.
All right. So notice the venue confusion. He mentions both the Trump Institute of Peace, and this reveals a branding strategy behind the peace initiative. And I thought Trump named it, but it turns out it was Marco Rubio. So I was fact-checking real time. Thanks for the live watchers telling me what's going on. So Rapid Response 47. Today is a tremendous honor to welcome you all to the United States Institute of Peace for the inaugural meeting of the Board of Peace. I believe it's the most consequential board. There has never been anything close in the history. Never been anything close. Let's see.
Today is a tremendous honor to welcome you all to the United States Institute of Peace for the inaugural meeting of the Board of Peace. Very important. I believe it's the most consequential board, certainly in terms of power and in terms of prestige. There's never been anything close, because these are the greatest world leaders. Almost everybody's accepted, and the ones that haven't will be. You know, some are playing a little cute. It doesn't work. You can't play cute with me. But they're playing a little bit. But they're all joining. Everybody, most of them very immediately. A few that we really don't want because they're trouble. Take care of them. But this is the most prestigious board ever put together. You know, I've seen some great corporate boards. I've seen some great boards, period. It's peanuts compared to this board, because we have virtually everyone is the head of a country other than Johnny, but he's the head of soccer, so that's not so bad, right, Johnny? I like your job the best, I think.
And I think that's what the world was craving, was just a new way forward. You know, we knew that we're getting stuck in the way we've been doing it for 50 years, and how dare you change it? These are institutional. That's how the deep state got formed. That's how you let all these NGOs and non-elected people control everything. So when you put a board together like this that really sets a tone for a way to move forward, that's why people are jumping on board, because they see vision and leadership. And when Trump's out, I don't know if he's going to be running the board or not. It might be somebody else doing it. But it's a new way forward. I think it's worth exploring. Trump calling this the most consequential board ever will be the greatest world leaders, but there's a discrepancy coming in the numbers that you guys need to catch. So according to Rapid Response 47, tomorrow at POTUS, we'll host a Board of Peace meeting with Donald Trump Institute of Peace, where it pledged more than $5 billion towards Gaza. Let's see.
Tomorrow, President Trump will host a Board of Peace meeting at the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, where he will announce that member states have pledged more than $5 billion towards the Gaza humanitarian and reconstruction efforts, and have also committed thousands of personnel to the International Stabilization Force and local police to maintain security and peace for Gazans.
Good. Needs to happen. Absolutely needs to happen. But the press secretary said $5 billion yesterday, but Trump announced $7 billion today. The numbers are shifting, and now we get international perspective. Let's see. U.S. mission to the UN. So on the Hugh Witt show, Ambassador Waltz highlights the positive impact of President Trump's historic Board of Peace. Let's see.
Well, not only did we get it through, Hugh, we got it through unanimously. And you know, President Trump loves to keep score. And the fact that his peace plan was endorsed by the international community 13-0 was truly significant on probably the most contentious issue there is for the UN, which is Israel-Palestine. And I was reminding in Munich all of our European friends that this wasn't invented out of whole cloth by President Trump. The UN Security Council endorsed it, including the UK and France and Denmark and other countries that were on. And what does it do? It, number one, creates an international security force, which the Indonesians have announced publicly 8,000 troops they've pledged. It creates a Palestinian Technocratic Authority, and it creates a World Bank fund And I think you'll see next week, the president's already previewed at for the first Board of Peace meeting, $5 billion. So what you saw was a lot of hand-wringing from the Europeans. Are you replacing the UN? Are you, creating an alternative? Well, you know what the president's doing? He's creating something that's working when nothing else has worked. It's not guaranteed that it will get us the full distance, but the hostages are out, the ceasefire's in place, the humanitarian aid is flowing, and we're about to go to round two to what you're talking about is Hamas. We've made it clear they either are going to disarm the hard way or the easy way. Let's hope they choose the hard way. And what's significant to you from a diplomatic standpoint is on the Board of Peace are all of the countries that Hamas usually relies on to help it out of a jam. It relied on Qatar, it's relied on Turkey, it's relied on Egypt. Well, you know what? All of those countries are on the Board of Peace singing to the same tune as the United States, and Israel is on too. I mean, what a diplomatic feat that only President Trump could pull off.
Well, we knew they'd probably join either way, but it's an incredible, monumental achievement. The United States ambassador is selling this as conservative media while international reactions are mixed. Al Jazeera is about to show us who's really showing up. Let's see. From Al Jazeera English. U.S. President Trump hosts the first Board of Peace in D.C. this Thursday to unveil plans for Gaza. While Asian and Middle East partners will attend, Europe is keeping its distance. We're going to try to zoom in on this and not blow it out. So let's see here. I don't know. There's a lot of people. It looks like most of Europe didn't go in. I know these are very hard for you guys to see, so my apologies on that. But it pretty much shows that most of Europe's not going to be there, but the rest of the world wants to. And it's because Europe has been opening its doors to people from the Middle East and Africa, and they've been taking over, and they're losing control of their cities and their countries, and you can't say anything contrary to that, which is why they don't want to be there. So Al Jazeera reveals as European absence, Asia and Middle East are in, but Europe's sitting this out. That's a major diplomatic split, and we need to address that. Let's see. And from Eric Doucher, we have just in dozens of countries are attending President Trump's Board of Peace event at the White House tomorrow with Marco Rubio expected to speak as well. It's going to be epic. Let's see.
Because the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is someone who is not limited by what others say is possible or what others say is impossible. He's not limited by some of the things that have happened in the past, and he's willing to talk to or engage with anyone in the interest of peace, always putting the American people and our national security first, but understanding that in the world that we share with so many others, peace is paramount to all of us.
And that's the whole point that Marco Rubio has. Yeah, peace is very important to the American people. But if we have peace, our allies have peace. And a lot of people around the world have peace also. We have the largest and the best military that has ever graced the planet Earth. And we're not the world police. I'm not for advocating for going in and controlling things, but strength affords stability. So when you have the administration being strong and regionally and globally strong, especially in our hemisphere right now, we're watching the Monroe Doctrine in full effect. It helps stabilize things where we can do economic developments. We can worry about kids learning in Africa. We can worry about the water problems in India. We can go through and help Japan out with some of their issues. It allows us the ability through stability to really lift the human movement up. So the attendance hype is building, but notice how Rubio frames this as a model for other conflicts. They're thinking way bigger than just Gaza. So Rubio praises early success of the Board of Peace on Gaza. We hope this can serve as a model for other complex and difficult situations. Let's see.
I'll be brief and to the point. We want to talk a little bit about the strategic vision of this organization and begin doing so by first acknowledging that we are here today because the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has both an ability and a willingness to use the power of his office to think outside the box. And that's why we're here today. This was a very unique crisis in Gaza, one that the existing international institutions could not solve or figure out. It needed a very specific type solution that required the partnership of all the nations that are here, including those that are here on an observer status. And we appreciate you coming today and being a part of this as well. And that's the point I want to drive home today. And soon you'll hear from Steve and Jared, who, by the way, deserve an incredible amount of credit for pulling this together and working countless hours and traveling all over the world. They truly deserve our appreciation and thanks for the work they've put in under the leadership of President Trump to make this possible. This Gaza situation was impossible to solve under orthodoxy, under existing structures. And so what we did is they went to the UN, and they got the UN's approval to put this group together and bring these nations together to come up with a very specific solutions to a very unique and specific problem. We have a long ways to go. There's a lot of work that remains. It will require the contribution of every nation state represented here today, and we thank you for being a part of it. And we hope that this can serve as a model for other complex and difficult situations so they can be solved in the same way. But right now the focus is on this one. We have to get this right. There is no plan B for Gaza. Plan B is going back to war. No one here wants that. Plan A, the only path forward, is one that rebuilds Gaza in a way of enduring and sustainable peace where everyone can live there side by side with one another and never worry again about returning to conflict, to war, to human suffering, and to destruction. And again, Mr. President, thank you for having the vision and the courage to pursue something that has never been done before, and we're not done yet. And thank you to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for the time and the work they've put into this. And thank you on behalf of the State Department and the U.S. government to all of the nations that are here. Every one of you is indispensable, including our observer partners, who we hope can find your way to join us at some point as officially part of this. But we are grateful for the fact you're here today and the contributions you've made already. Thank you.
It was very welcoming for everybody. And I think that's the vision that we were talking about earlier, where they're trying to sell it as a new way forward. We knew that the United Nations and the other things that we were doing for Gaza specifically wasn't working. It wasn't working. So what do? They're like, okay, if the system we're using now doesn't work, what do? They created a new system and they just made it work because we're the United States of America and we can do things like that because we're the strongest country to ever exist. And sometimes you have to do that. But it's also there to help people. And we're not there to put people down and whatever. We're there to lift people up. And it's incredible to see that focus from our government now. I'm proud to say that we're doing these things. I wasn't too proud not long ago. So Rubio's positioned this as a template for global conflict resolution, but the final speaker brings us back to the human cost that started this entire crisis. For Secretary of Peace missions to the Board of Peace, we are here today because of POTUS. Without him, none of this was possible. There were 251 hostages, 168 came out alive, 83 bodies were returned to their families. This was a monumental effort. Let's see.
We're here today, again, I say it, I know it sounds redundant, but we're here today because of President Trump. Without him, none of this was possible. There were 251 hostages, 168 came out alive, 83 bodies were returned to their families so that they could grieve and remember their loved ones like in a normal way. In a way that brought their families together. So that was just as important. This was a monumental effort, and I want to tell a story about the president. Every time a hostage family came to visit with us, they were not on the president's schedule. I would walk down to the Oval Office, I would tell the president that there was a hostage family here, and he would say, "Steve, bring them up." Every single time. Mm-hmm. And when we got the last 20 out, we had a celebration at the White House, and I could see the emotion on the president's face. And he came up to me and he said to me, "I have to tell you, this is my 5th year in the Oval Office, and I don't know that I've ever had a more special time than this moment with these people, seeing them come home." And I said to the president, "You have to look around because none of them would be home without you, sir. None of them." So I only want to tell you, Mr. President, you gave me my greatest honor to work on this effort, and I thank you.
So we see the briefing schedules every day. We get email alerts on what's going on at the White House. I've never seen visitors of the hostages that were released. Never once was it on there. But then, like, if I'm out covering the White House for Gary, and all of a sudden visitors are there. And it's like, that wasn't on the schedule. Nobody knew it. They really just brought him in. Like he just said, "Come in. I don't care what meeting I'm in. Bring them in here. I want to see it." And this is the moment everything changes. Like Trump isn't just making peace deals. He's creating an entirely new framework that bypasses the corrupt United Nations system completely and the USAID system. And Steve Witkoff said it perfectly. This was only possible because of President Trump's willingness to think outside of the box. And while globalists talk, Trump delivers. And you know the globalists want war. That's how they sustain themselves. And while bureaucrats form committees, Trump brings people home. The Board of Peace isn't just, solving Gaza. It's a blueprint for ending conflicts worldwide. So here's my question for you guys. Are you ready to support a president who actually solves problems instead of managing them? Because that's exactly what we're witnessing. Trump's Board of Peace initiative proves that when America leads with strength and innovation, the whole world follows. No more endless wars, no more failed diplomacy, and no more watching helpless families suffer while global bureaucrats collect their paychecks. Just results. That's what I voted for. Pure, undeniable results that save lives and bring people home. This is what America First foreign policy looks like in action, and it's beautiful to watch. Honestly, I'm proud of it. But make sure to check out our Next News merch shop and let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. God bless.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.